and partners and everyone. I hope I pronounce it right. Bonaire, is it right? Yeah, I hope. Bonaire, oh, very good. Then 30. Then also Microsoft European Collaboration Summit, and I see we have a raffle slide. I hope I have the right one, as was the last email of the organizer. So you can win something today. So participate this raffle, and now it's your chance to win something. You see here, you win a lot of, and you win great things. Make it bigger, like cool gadgets, USB drives, headphones, Bluetooth speakers. I hope team certificated. If not, it's not the not the point. And for the collaboration global conf4, that's really great, and also great conference. So let's start. Hello, my name is Raphael Koellner. I'm working from Germany, and I'm sitting in this moment in Cologne in Germany. It's a little bit dark outside. It will be darker, so we have the dark mode a little bit outside. And I'm working for BDO as executive consultant for compliance and security topics, and that's also what I'm talking about today, about Yammer and the new Yammer and security and compliance things. I also have these sessions in the last Ignites and also on the last Ignite. So I'm very happy to talk now in Europe or virtual in Europe about this awesome topic about Yammer. And last year we have the year of Yammer, and now we have the new year of Yammer. So we will see. I'm also one of the great MVPs of Office apps and services. Like some of the organizers. And also I'm Windows Insider MVP since 6 years. And we celebrate last week the 6th anniversary for Windows Insider program. And I'm one of the 100 Microsoft regional directors who's talking also with the leadership team of Microsoft about the strategies and all of this. So I can talk a little bit about Yammer today also on the strategies. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will have some parts in the presentation where you can ask, or you can ask at the end. And also you can send me a tweet via Twitter, or you send me an email, or have a look on on my website. And also, I have some communities, but have a look on the watch. We go forward. What we do today, make a little introduction into Yammer, and I miss that we don't have more Yammer sessions, and there's also only a few on Ignite, but the Yammer family will grow up, so I'm very confident and I'm happy to see more and more Yammer installation and usage in the companies today. So we make a little introduction, then we talk about compliance and make a compliance view on Yammer. And the most of the questions I got, hey Raphael, can you say something about Yammer? And we know Yammer was brought by Microsoft some years ago. And is it in Europe or in US? What happened with Yammer and what's happened with the contracts? Then we talk about the new Yammer and the native mode and what happened with Yammer. And one of the main questions I got also via my blog, Raphael, can you tell us something? Which compliance and security tool is working with the new Yammer in Europe? And the most of the documentary is for US. So let's check it today, and we have some Q&A at the end. And also between these sections, you can ask, and I have a look at the chat too. So introduction. I'm one of the Yammer lovers. Can I talk it? Yeah, it's fine. Yammer and Teams. And I see, and I think you have also today some discussions about, okay, we have Yammer, we have Teams, and Teams is growing up, and we have, for example, also growing up the members of a team to 5,000, and we have team events and live events in Teams, and why we need Yammer. And in this COVID crisis, for me, I thought, okay, I need Yammer, and in all my customer companies, which is mostly retailer, for example, and also high regulated companies, we have Yammer. And also in my company and also in my my private communities, we use Yammer and Teams side by side. So out of me, Yammer, and this is a very good thing, is like a company canteen. It's knowledge sharing, it's interactive internet in combination with a web part to SharePoint and our company Teams. Because we have a company with more than 10,000 people, and that's not possible with Teams. So we are using Yammer to communicate with each other. And this is a little change. And I hope you remember back to Ignite 2019 and Ignite 2020, and here's the roadmap and the investments they announced on Ignite 2019. And I hope you remember this sheet that Yammer is the outer loop and the communication with external and all of this. And this changed in the last month. So Yammer is more and more the internal one, the internal company one, and more external collaboration is working with teams. And you see here this slide and the next slide, the old the investments to the new Yammer and the year of Yammer. And these are the slides of the last years, Ignite to this year. So you see here also that Microsoft invests in a lot of parts like the new experience, and all of you hopefully see the new experience and also the experience that the Yammer communities, we don't talk groups, Yammer communities are shifting to Teams, and also you can use Yammer via Teams. Also, you have new apps like on smartphones, new web app, and all of this. And you have the native mode in Yammer. We talk a little bit later about it. And I'm very, very happy. One of the sheets on this old roadmap slide is new compliance capabilities. And this is where a lot of people are waiting for, that not only can type some words and restrict it in Yammer communication, some words. And what's new, for example, and we have a look in the new Yammer and see what happened on this Ignite, and also what happened with the new Yammer and the new Yammer and the compliance tools. And that's what we're talking in the next minutes about it. And I'm a little bit searching, and I find for you the AKA link. So if you want to learn more about the new Yammer, the Yammer that we have today, not everyone have today. So we talk a little bit about the move, that aka.ms, the new Yammer. So after the year of Yammer, we will have the new Yammer with more and more compliance and regulation capabilities, and more investments into Yammer. So the new Yammer, we have today some options. The classic Yammer, and this is very important also for the end. At the end, I have a slide with all of the best practice when you use Yammer in Europe, what you have to do, which tools you need. And also one of these best practice information is which mode you can use. And here you see these are the modes. You can use the classic Yammer. This is the old one. You can use the new Yammer as an opt-in. You can enable the Yammer as a default. And also you can enable the new Yammer with no opt-out option so that the people don't come back. So at the end of the session, I will introduce you and I will say which option is the best one out of a compliance view, because there are some challenges or also one issue in the Yammer environment I found at 3 customers. And yeah, I'm very happy that one of the customers told me and asked me why this happens. So this is not a part of the documentation, so you will get a lot of information today out of the documentation, or more information that you can find in the documentation. So stay to the end and you get more information and why you choose one of these options. So one more, I linked it to the presentation. You get the presentation at the end, so you don't have to type or to copy the link of the new Yammer investment. So you see here, this is the new Yammer on last week, at the end of September. We have some great announcements to the new Yammer and also some compliance announcements. And today we will talk about the compliance and security announcements and what happened and what is working today and what will work in the future. So if you learn more, you can go to this YouTube video and also to the websites. And in 54 minutes, yeah, I think it was 54 minutes, you learn more about the new Yammer on Ignite. But yeah, we don't talk about Yammer, we talk about compliance. So let's check and go to the next slide. And my PowerPoint don't want, now it wants. But I think I was a little bit too fast. Let's check. Yeah, I'm on the right slide. Okay, Yammer native mode. And this is the way to the new Yammer with the new capabilities. A lot of companies are using the old Yammer, and don't transform it to the native mode, but for out of compliance reasons, and you will see it also the default storage, for example, changed to SharePoint. This is one of the new things, and for this you need the native mode, and I will only very short flipping for the next 4 slides. You see why we need the native mode. And the native mode, for me, it was the biggest investment in the last 1 year, and the last 12 months, more 13 months, to Yammer, because with the native mode, we will switch the Yammer infrastructure to Office 365 groups, to default storage, which is SharePoint now. Yeah, the default is SharePoint, but you can use also the old one. And what is really great, you have the opportunity to guest and B2B guests with Azure AD. So if you have a view in the back, in the historic, you see, and the subline don't work, but okay. You see that at the first, Microsoft is brought Yammer years ago, then moving the Yammer infrastructure to Azure, and then is moving the identity management to Azure AD. And now with the native mode, Microsoft is integrating and moving the Yammer architecture to Office 365 groups as a part of Microsoft 365 with identity, with storage, with all of this. And this is very easy. It's very easy if you don't have so much Yammer networks and external networks. That is a challenge, but if you want to start, you can start and click on native mode. This is for all of the old tenants. If you created a tenant since January in this year, you don't have to do this because you're starting with a new Yammer in Europe. But when you don't start and when you have an old Yammer tenant, you have to start with the native mode. If you are in US and also in Europe, you have to start it, and then you start it. And what happened is, you see it here, they are enforced the Office 365 identity. So Office 365 identity have to be Azure AD and synchronize the tenants. And you see here, you can test it for 7 days, or you make a commitment. I said, okay, let's try it for the whole time. So I don't want to go back. Everyone needs a Yammer license. That's also okay. That's also starting with the new guest access. Then external messaging, allow users blocking, and you see here, enabled Office 365 groups. Everyone get a Yammer license, and then block the native mode. And you see here, there are no steps more available. And you do all of these things, and at the end, that's more and more. You have to sign in and say, yes, it's okay. And you see, and this is a way to the native mode. And then you see a checklist. Also, you have all groups are connected, or you have groups that are connected, that you can't move to the native mode and all of this. But this is the biggest migration point in Yammer you can do for your own. And at the end, the result of the migration is you have the old UI, yes, but the architecture in the background is moving to Office 365 groups with SharePoint and all of this. And you have only Office 365 groups before you have a mix between Office 365 group and all of this. So this was very, very fast fly through the native mode, but this is the basic. I hope you did it, for example, in January or in February this year. If not, this is the first step you have to do to be compliant in Europe, for example. But let's have a look at the new Yammer, which is included in native mode. So if you have an old one, you have to do this native mode, and then you can make a migration to Europe, for example, or with the native mode, and with the native mode, there's also a part of migration into, because you see there will be an Office 365 group. But I will tell you a little bit later about how you move to Europe and what happened in Europe. So let's start. Let's start with the new Yammer and the compliance view on Yammer. I have 4. We can make also 5 compliance checks. The first one is the contracts. You have a view on the contracts you have in Europe with Microsoft and also with your direct partner or with your Microsoft partner. Also identity management, governance and protection, information protection, for example, as a governance, and also manage risk and response. And this is, yeah, if you start with Yammer compliance, these are the main points you have to look at. If you have a look in the Microsoft documentation, they start with identity, then protection, and then manage risk, or they have a part for governance for its own, and often they forgot the contract part, for example. So I added it, and let's have a look at it. And yes, we start with contracts. Yammer is a part in Europe of different contracts, and I hope you can remember which contract you have. At first, you can order it via a credit card. Second one, you can order it via the open contracts. There are four open contracts you can order, mostly for the middle market and smaller companies. And there are also the MPSA contracts and also the cloud solution provider. This is one of the most contracts today, and the enterprise agreements, the EA agreements, where you can have Yammer and Office 365 together, and also you can book Yammer for its own, but the most companies are using Yammer included of the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 licensing. And when we have a more deeper look to the contracts, and you have a look to the newer ones, which are the newest ones, Microsoft Online Service Terms, the OSTs. Then we have a look in the contracts, and this is attachment. The OSTs are attachment to the default contracts, and the OSTs has also an attachment. And there we have a look, and that's very cool because Yammer is a part of the core tools. And because Yammer is a part of the core tools, Yammer has also the data privacy attachment, which is the regulatory, or which is the contract one in connecting with the GDPR rules and also with the data privacy rules. And I have a check also with the Polish data privacy rules. And that was very, very interesting for me because they implemented the most of the GDPR ones, but not everything. But it's very cool that you can see and can compare the data privacy of the Polish government with the data privacy attachment of Microsoft. And here you see these are the newest versions. Microsoft Online Terms, we have every month a new one. I will explain a little bit later why. And we have the data privacy attachment also in Polish language. So it's in English, in German, in France, in Polish. So we have the most language in Europe. The contracts are translated. And here are also the AKA links if you want to have a look at the contracts. And there are some more like SLA and product terms, and also they are listed about the support providers and subcontractors. To subcontractors, I will tell you a little bit later, a little bit more. So, Yammer contracts. I make a graphic. So Yammer is also a part of Office 365. So a part between the Microsoft partner, the customer, and also the European data centers, because currently data centers in Poland, and I don't know official, there's nothing announced. So if you have Office 365, you have to use the European ones. I don't think you need the France, Switzerland, or German ones. So you use traditionally the European ones. So you have North Europe and West Europe. We have Amsterdam and Dublin. And also we have the contracts with Microsoft Corp, for example, for the support ones, and for Microsoft Ireland. Microsoft Ireland, we have all the licensing ones. And in this contract architecture, Yammer is a part of it. So you can book Yammer for its own, then it's only for Yammer, all of these contracts. Mostly you book it with Office 365 and Microsoft 365 SKUs or plans. In Microsoft, it calls SKU. And in this construct, Yammer is a part of it. And you have a lot of contracts, yes. And what was for me very interesting also, if I prepared of this session, you can have a look in the subcontractors, and there are new subcontractors for the February in next year. And this is very interesting that we have 2 new Polish subcontractors for Office 365. I hope you know it, all of you. But yes, we have 2 new. I don't, yeah. So I don't want to give the names to you because I want that you have your own look in the subcontractors. So in the presentation, there's a link above, a download link for the new subcontractor list. You get the slide at the end, so you can have a look at it and see which Polish companies, and you see also a Czech Republic company are the new subcontractors for Microsoft and all of this. One question what I get on my blog is, Raphael, can you tell me which subcontractor is the subcontractor for Yammer in Europe? There's no, yeah, you only can you can ask Microsoft. You don't get any information. You can have a look in the documentation. You get no information. So I asked also Microsoft and get no information. So there's no list that subcontractor and support partners are matching to only one tool. So you can choose the whole list, or you can have the whole list and see which is supporting. So if there are special combining list which subcontractor and information is connected to Yammer? No. So we have to live with it. That there is a list of partners from Microsoft which are dealing with the data and dealing with Yammer in Europe. So this is special for Germany. We go forward because all of these discussions, where is my data, what happened with the data, it's very important that you know some principles and trust principles. These are the very, very old. It's very old out of IT view. It's from 2010. These are the trust Office 365 trust principles. Before it was BPOS trust principles, which are always and also combining to Yammer. Because as Microsoft brought Yammer, Microsoft combine Yammer into Office 365 and combine it in the contract structure and also in the structure of, for example, trust principles, also in the same structure of shared responsible model. So Yammer is and will be in the future, and I spoil it a little bit. Yeah, it don't work. Okay, this is the new PowerPoint one. Yammer is a software as a service tool. And I got a lot of questions, and I asked also Microsoft and talking with the Microsoft guys, can we have Yammer as an on-premise installation? Because of compliance, regulations, no, that will not happen, that don't happen in the future, and there's no roadmap or no plan that we can install Yammer on-prem. So for example, you have a local installation of Yammer, that's not possible. Maybe we will get a local installation of Yammer in the local data centers, for example, in Germany, in France, in Switzerland, for example, also in Italy in the future and in Spain. But currently, there's only an installation in US and only one in Europe. So it's Dublin and Amsterdam. And we can have and use Yammer as a software as a service tool. And on this part, you see the physical security, the host infrastructure, network control, all of this is on Microsoft side, the controlling of the application level. And then we have some mixed parts, for example, the client and endpoint security. And then I can spoil, and this is one of the advantages for today. Yeah, Yammer and the Yammer app is possible to use with Intune. And you can check it and you can control the Yammer app on Intune with the mobile application management. And there's a long list of configuration options you can use with Yammer. And this is very, very cool. And this is new since 1 year, 8 months to 1 year, that we have all of these options with the Yammer application app. So yeah, this is possible. Also, the identity and that's not the translation. The identity and the access management is also one of the parts that we are part on Microsoft and on part of your side. And the most one, and this is only on your side, is the data classification responsible. And yes, there are some new announcements and some new work that is working. not very stable because of the, or it's working, but you can't see it because of the new UI. But let me talk a little bit later about it so you can see it. Okay, you have Office 365 tenant, and you know the shared responsible model, you know your contracts, and all of this, and you know, okay, when my tenant is created, and then you see on one of your Yammer's pages in the admin center, where's my data located, for example, in US, because it's an old, very old Office 365 tenant, and Yammer is in US created, is in US region, for example. You use the native mode, and with the native mode, this is the first big architecture change, and then the file storage go to SharePoint, and you have a part of Yammer in Europe, and the other part, for example, the UI is also in US. So you have a mixed Yammer tenant environment. So it's very important to know when the tenant is created and when the Yammer network is created, in which region is it created, and you have to know the contracts. Maybe you need additional contracts, for example, for people, they work every day with high secure data like doctors. A lot of companies have their own doctor, for example, or their own lawyers. There are additional contracts. A lot of people ask me, there are some additional contracts for Yammer or only for Yammer? No, there are no additional contracts only for Yammer. Instead of Microsoft Teams for telemetry, there are additional contracts, but not for Yammer. Then you have to look at the categories of Yammer, in which contract category, in which category is it, and also which tools Yammer use. This is a very interesting thing because Yammer is using Tenor. And I don't know if every one of you have a look at Yammer and see these Giphies and use these Giphies. I think a lot of people use these Giphies, like in Teams. In Teams, the provider, or the supported provider is Giphy. In Yammer, there's another one, that's Tenor. And there you have a special look because Tenor is only an add-in in Yammer, and you don't have a contract about the Microsoft contracts with Microsoft to Tenor, because Microsoft told us, okay, Tenor is only an add-in. We don't have contracts with Tenor, or we have only an API contract so that we add Tenor to Yammer. That now you have to look at Tenor in Yammer and have to check the contracts with Tenor. And there's one interesting point. It's nearly the same like in Giphy. For example, if your users want to use Tenor, in Europe, they need to be 16 years. And yeah, there are no EU privacy shield, there are no privacy shield anymore. There are no new EU default or model clauses. So Tenor is in high risk, and you make a risk management and risk decision, for example, for Tenor, because Tenor is an external add-in which is hosted in US and don't have all of the data privacy contracts. So that's what you have to look at Yammer every time, and also for which tools you are using in Yammer. And if Yammer comes more and more third-party tools in, and AI tools, for example, also, you have to look at every tool and have to check and control every tool out of a compliance view. If you want to check, there's the Trust Center of Microsoft. And here you see a lot of certificates, for example, also if it's encrypted or not, if the Yammer environment also encrypted, and is the sending of your web app, for example, to the Yammer server in Dublin encrypted. Yes, it is. You can see it also in the security white papers of Microsoft, and also you can have a look in the certification in the Trust Center, and you see all of the certifications for Yammer. Also, this is very cool, and you have a lot of certifications for Yammer. And also, if you moved to the new Yammer, for example, via the native mode, you have also the certifications, for example, for SharePoint and for Exchange Online, for SharePoint Online and Exchange Online. In the background, this is very, very interesting. And also, you have all of these worldwide certifications. I make a little bit bigger, for example, here, certifications, and contracts. And this is a slide from Microsoft from last week, and it's very interesting that we have Privacy Shield here. No, Privacy Shield is not an option anymore for US, and also Switzerland deleted the Privacy Shield contract. So you have the model clauses and the data of Microsoft, and also data you use also via Yammer. And maybe it is copied or sometimes copied to the USA, for example, in a support contract. Then you need the EU model clauses that the support engineer is working, but there's also some technical organizational measures. We will have a look a little bit later that you can minimize this risk that, for example, support engineer has access to your customer data or to your data. Also, Yammer is a part of the security reference architecture. This is a slide of April 2019. There's no new one, so I show this to you. And Yammer, we talked about Intune. So the Yammer app is a part of the MAM as a mobile application management, also of the device management. Conditional access is announced for Yammer also. But what is not possible, for example, for Yammer, you can't give Microsoft the key for the default Yammer encryption, or also for the default BitLocker encryption in the background of Yammer. This is not possible. This is only possible for Exchange and SharePoint. And this is new announced on Ignite for Teams. But here you also see, if you have Yammer via the native mode to the new Yammer, the default storage is SharePoint, and the SharePoint, you can give keys to the support to ones, and then you have your own keys for the SharePoint environment at the end. And there are a lot of interesting things. For example, also is working sensitivity labeling with labeling for containers and unified groups. And if you moved via the native mode to the new Yammer, Yammer is also a unified group, and with a unified group is also working with sensitivity labeling. That's what I love, and also is working with data loss prevention with Yammer, and also e-discovery. These are the newest announcement also of the last month, and that's what I really like, that more and more compliance with out of Office 365 now working with Yammer. And why is working? Why? Because Yammer and the Yammer communities are unified groups, and as unified groups, the same controls and tools are working like Teams, or the unified groups itself working also for Yammer, and also the zero trust principles are working for Yammer, and that's what I like. For example, you can say only from these IP address you have access to Yammer. This is working for a long time, but today and some announcement also, and hopefully there will be more and more for conditional access and Yammer in combination. That's what I like really, because zero trust is more and more important in these COVID days. I have a lot of more and more customers in the last time. They are hacked from phishing attacks. So conditional access is one of the main things you can use as a technical organizational measure, also with Yammer. So next one. And this is, I told you a lot about the architecture in the EU and where's the data storage and all of this. And I have a lot of links for you and information, and it starts also in 2019 that the data residency of Yammer will be in, or is then in Europe. And the data center is Dublin and Amsterdam. The main data center is Dublin. You can check it with Fiddler or Wireshark, and you see it work. It will be there, and you can see it. Where's your data region? You can see it on the starts, on the start side of your Yammer network. And this is in German, but on the start side, under the big picture, you see your Yammer network is in EU geolocation or in US geolocation. So you see where's your Yammer location. And then if it's in EU, and this is why, and we talked a lot with the product group, and we want it in EU. So we have the default storage. This is new on SharePoint Online. We have the file storage in SharePoint Online, and we have a SharePoint site, the SharePoint library in the background. So also, for example, retention policy can work. This is really cool. We have the chat and Yammer messengers here in EU. This is a new one, and also the Office 365 groups and AD4s. I told you this is a little bit longer. You can do it to 2 years via the native mode in this part. Then you have the Office 365 groups in EU, but before these new Yammer in the EU, and you have the whole Yammer environment in EU. Before it was the Yammer UI, for example, it was in US. So if you have a new tenant and Yammer is in EU, you have everything of Yammer in EU. If you have an old tenant with a native mode, you can get, for example, the file storage and also the Office 365 group in EU, and via the move program, and I told you a little bit later, you can move also the whole Yammer environment into the EU. Attention, depending on the application, third party, and also add-ons. I told you a little bit about Tenor, and there are also some third-party applications you can add to Yammer. Attention here, you have to check every third-party application. The most of them are on AWS, Amazon Cloud, Amazon Cloud, or they are on Salesforce, for example, and mostly in US. So that is very important. You have to look at it. And what is the difference between Yammer environment in the US and EU? These are, for example, and this is the most thing because the most customer and people said, okay, let's stay in US with our environment are the external communities. So if you need and you have a lot of external communities, because you are following Microsoft with Yammer as the outer loop, this is not available in Europe. So in Europe, it's only internal communities, but there is planned for next year that is working with external communities, and there's a private preview today. I will talk about a little bit later. I have also the link for the forms for the private preview, so that you can have external communities today in the private preview. So yes, Yammer loves Europe because we have then all of the features out of the Yammer environment in US also in Europe, and this is what I really like, that you can use Yammer natively in the native mode in Europe with all of the functionality, including external communities. And a sneak peek before we talk about the move program and the technical organizational measures a little bit deeper. We talk about the new things which you really like, and this is also working in Europe. And you see here the default storage is SharePoint Online. And you see here, this is in German because my tenant don't want to switch to English today. I make the screenshots every time before the session. So here you see the first one is all data storage. Then we have Yammer and SharePoint. So yes, we have, you can choose SharePoint, and this is in default today for all new tenants, and also for the tenants, for the older ones. When you migrate with a native mode to the new Yammer and have the new Yammer as default, then you have SharePoint as the default storage. And this is really cool because when you say upload something or create a new file, that's every time in SharePoint. Before it was a Yammer location, the file location in US, and now it's everything in EU, in Dublin, and you have your default. For example, when you use the SharePoint, then you have your default region. So for me, I have a test tenant, for example, in Germany, and then I have my default SharePoint in Germany, Frankfurt, and the Yammer UI is in Europe. So that is really cool. So you know where are your data. And for me, and what I'm missing, and I hope, and then not I hope, I remember and asked the expert session on Ignite, where I was an expert in the background, that the Yammer storage will be deleted, and it's on the roadmap that the Yammer storage will be deleted, that we only have the SharePoint storage in the future, so that when you have use the file storage, the new one with the new capabilities of sharing with the default sharing options, from SharePoint and OneDrive, then we have only these functionality and no special functionality in Yammer. This is very, really cool, also out of the compliance view, because all of the compliance features are now working for the SharePoint storage, and I'll make it bigger, for the SharePoint storage instead of the Yammer storage. So for compliance reasons, we want the SharePoint storage, not the Yammer storage. And that's also one of the things that are not really, really clear, but if anyone in the session heard about it, that Microsoft is automatically migrate all of the files from Yammer to SharePoint. I heard something about it, but I don't read a date when it happens. So for me, I said, okay, please, dear users, if you have some information here in the Yammer storage, please copy it to the SharePoint storage, or if it's a very old one, then we can delete it so that we use in the future. And that is very important why we have the default storage in SharePoint. Please use the SharePoint one so that we are more compliant. Next big thing is the new guest access, the B2B one. And here you see on the right side the preview we need for the external networks. And we have Azure B2B now for Yammer. This is working, and this is a new guest access capabilities that I really like. So you remember my thing in the beginning, Microsoft bought Yammer, then we moved to Azure, then we have the Azure AD, and you remember the enforcement of Azure AD for Yammer. And now with the new B2B functionality of Azure, this is working with Yammer. This is really, really cool. You have the chance to unlock external collaboration in European Yammer networks. And here for this, you need the Azure B2B. And that's why the external networks in Yammer Europe are not available, because Microsoft knows that this functionality is coming, so they don't implement the old technical functionality out of the Yammer US environment in Europe. So they started here with the new one, and the new one is the new B2B access with all of the compliance features. This is working with access review is working with it. So I'm a part of this preview. I can't tell you not more than we can find here, but yeah, internally it's really, really cool. And for you, I copied the link here. Make a screenshot, for example, or you get the slides in the end of the session. So here, type it in your web browser and hope you can get a part of the private preview. And the public preview, I hope, will start in the beginning of next year, so that everyone can use the new guest access B2B with all of the new guest modes. And also, this is really cool, guests on group level, on community level, also on network level, and all of this comes with these new Azure B2B guest functionality, which is really, really cool. So if you want to say, make a screenshot now and join the preview for external and new guest access, so that you have also the external collaboration. And this is really, really cool. So I told you a lot of time that there are a lot of old tenants. We started with the native mode and all of this. And yeah, is it possible to move to EU with the whole tenant, also with the UI and the whole Yammer environment? Yeah, that's possible, and that's possible. And here's I copy it from the website. There's the reprovisioning program for customers with minimum 10,000 licenses, and they can move to Europe or with the Yammer environment to the EU geolocation, and Microsoft will move it priceless. I make 2 of these movements with customers, and this was really, really easy. The only thing is, you can't make any announcements on the movement, or can make any changes on the movement, because they say, okay, I want to move, at the end you get a notification, the move is ready, and now you are in the EU geolocation, and now you see in the Yammer Network Center at the end there's the EU geolocation. So that's not more, and you lose the external networks, for example, that we have to move. And the limit of 10,000 licensed user, and I only can make it on the voice line. No, that's not the hard limit. I moved also with 1,000 users. So yes, talk to your Microsoft account team. Microsoft is deleting the 2 pages in the documentary about it. So that is only the official one is are these 2 sentences. So go to your Microsoft account or go to your Microsoft partner, yes, Microsoft Yammer special partner. They can help you that you can move with your old Yammer environment to you, and then go in the native mode and also go to the private preview that is working. So in the last minutes, I have 5-6 minutes, and I'm talking a lot, but one of the things I want to tell you is about TOMS, the technical organizational measures in the new Yammer. The new Yammer in Europe. And I told you, yeah, Yammer is loving Europe, yes. And mostly of the new tools are also working in Yammer. For example, this is really new and starting in the future of this slide, customer logbox. Yes, this is new. If you have customer logbox is for the Microsoft support. And I told you, yeah, that's possible that, for example, people out of the EU can have access to the customer content in Europe because the specialists of this Microsoft specialist engineers sitting in Seattle, for example, or in other regions in the US and Atlanta, then they need access to help you. And with customer logbox, this is for me, it's a very old functionality. It's not a part of Office 365 E3. It's an add-on, and Microsoft's Office 365 E3, it's a part of it. So you have a look at it. It's around, I think, €2 per month per user, or 250. Then in the support case, and the support engineer needs access, you get an information notification in the admin center, and you have to approve the access of the engineer every time. And you see it, okay, now they need access. You approve it for example, 15 minutes, and then the engineer get access. So you have a control who of the Microsoft support engineers and how long and when have access to your customer data. Really, really cool. EU data resistance, I told you, if you have a new Yammer tenant now, for example, today, that is in Europe, in Dublin. If you want to move, I tell you, yes, it's possible. 10,000 users, licenses user or more, but yeah, it's possible with only a few users, it's also possible. Or if you don't have so much content in Yammer, you can start with a new Yammer environment in Europe and said, okay, all of the old environment, we deleted it and we don't need it. That's also an option to get EU data resistance. In EU data resistance, it's possible data loss prevention, sensitivity labeling, so labeling the Yammer community and labeling the files. That's also possible. Auto labeling is also possible because unified groups is supported, and Yammer in the new Yammer mode is unified groups. So this is also possible. Only thing in the sensitivity labeling is that the new UI, and I will show it a little bit to you. I have my test tenant here. And it's not possible to make it to English because they don't want. If you have here my compliance communities, and you see here normally in the old Yammer environment, and if I switch back to the old one, you can see it that in nearby compliance there is, like in Teams, there's the field for the classification of the Yammer community, and I see some layout changes that the information which stands here moves to here, and then in the last 2 weeks it was deleted. So yeah, the Microsoft engineering group is working and the group is labeled, but the UI don't show the labeling of the group, of the unified group with sensitivity labeling. But I hope in the future you will get also a field, or the field comes back. And for me, I love the field here near the name of the group. They tried in this moment where's the best one, and I hope it comes back here, like in Teams or like in groups or like in the SharePoint side. It's also for the SharePoint side. If you go back, and you can go to the SharePoint side also of the Yammer community. Then the SharePoint side is also labeling, And on Ignite, you heard, yeah, that's also possible to define a default label with E3 licensing for SharePoint library. So that's also possible in the future, and I like it. So sensitivity labeling is working. Some issues in the UI, okay, that will be fixed, hopefully in the next weeks. And also the e-discovery and also the GDPR dashboard is working for Yammer messengers, for example, and SharePoint side, yeah, for SharePoint is working. So we have the Yammer environment also in e-discover and GDPR, and also the communication compliance is working, insider risk is working, audit logs, PIM and PAM is also working. So if you have Yammer administrators, this is also an E5 feature, it's also working. So these tools are working in the European Yammer environment. And I'm at the end. You get all of the links to the Yammer documentation and also to the announcements. For example, this is the picture I hope you remember for the e-discovery announcement for Yammer also in Europe. So you have all of these technical organizational measures. And at the end, and I'm jumping here, what you can do when you use Yammer in a compliant way in Europe: use the newest contracts, use the new Yammer, and I tell you at the beginning which option you choose. Please choose the option. And that's the last thing what I'll tell you. Please use and choose the options, the new Yammer, and your employees and also your people in your company can't go back to the classic Yammer. Why? Because in the classic Yammer, your profile picture is public. The profile picture of the classic Yammer is a public link. And only in the new Yammer, the profile picture is a Microsoft Graph thing, and it comes from your profile out of Delph. So it's not a public link, it's a link, it's a Microsoft Graph combination to your Delph or your, yeah, to Delph and to your profile picture. So classic Yammer has a lot of issues like this profile picture thing. So if you have a link of a profile picture of an environment in the classic Yammer, you can get every picture of the people of a Yammer network. And this is really crazy. So use the new Yammer, use B2B guests, go in the private preview, use documentation of all of this, of the what you do in Yammer, what data you proceed in Yammer, why you use Yammer, all of this to your employees and also to your people in the company, and also use the technical organizational measures you see on the last slide, like sensitive labeling, DLP retention, and the governance ones, so that you can use Yammer in a compliant way in Europe. So I'm ready. So thank you very much.